now we are starting our part 4, advice for young students and young professionals. So my first question, it's like right now people are trying to find the best profession for them, like young students, young people. Let's say they're thinking about their future experience, their future profession. But what do you think that is the best degree to start studying right now?
That's a very tough. As a chairman of the petroleum engineering department, I would have to tell you petroleum engineering.
Very true.
Actually, petroleum engineering, we still get the highest salaries. Yeah, the industry is going through a difficult time, but it is. But things are going to improve again. Is turning around. In University of Houston, we are looking at not only petroleum, but we want to make sure that our students learn skills related to renewable energy, geothermal, data analytics, and stuff like that. But if you're say in high school and you want to study something, the one thing that I learned that with experience is that don't study things that you can just in your own read it in a newspaper or pick a book and read it and you understand it very well. Study something that requires a teacher to teach you. So I am biased, obviously. So you don't have to listen to me. I'm biased towards science and engineering. I think STEM field, STEM meaning mostly science, technology, engineering, and medicine. I think those fields are very important. If many female students tend to, at least in Egypt, and when I was in engineering, they shy away from engineering and science, which is a mistake. Women are as good in science and engineering as anyone. And maybe right now, I don't want to say it because my son may hear it. The two best students in my class, one of them is a female. So so my wife has a PhD in mathematics, so she's a mathematician. My daughter is an engineer working for a very high-tech company. So it is, to me, we try to add more women to our engineering program, and they do extremely well. So then I hope in the Middle East females will do the same. There is no reason why you should not be as successful and more successful than male. I have a lot of students now, and they're female students are doing extremely well. As there is not any worse or better than male students.
Yeah.
So I'm biased towards science. I think students need to go to the STEM field. You need to look at science, technology, engineering, and medicine. So the 4 letters.
I would totally agree with you. And
you are a good example. You are a master's degree in petroleum engineering. So
exactly. And I was going to say that there is no gender for doing something. Like only if you are talking about Middle East, the only thing which female are facing is public condemnation, that you are a female, you can't do it. That's the only thing, but you
Right.
can do everything. Doesn't matter. Gender doesn't matter.
Yeah,
As you give example from your wife, from your daughter,
yeah.
and also me as an
With you,
example.
exactly. You know, many times the best students, because frankly, I see many times the female students put more, give more attention than male students. I hate to say it, but that is many times is true. So there's no reason. We three of our professors in the department are female. We think it's very important because it encourages also female to get into our field.
Exactly. Exactly. 100% agree. Thank you very much for your answer. Well, I don't know. Next question of mine. I don't think it's for you because, like, as per our conversation since like until now, I don't think that you have limitation. But my question is, in what way is important to know your limitations in your life or in your career?
Oh, that's a absolutely. It's extremely important. I I am trying to think of knowing your limitation. Actually, I'll tell you something. I hate my son would not be mad at me for that, although it's nothing bad about him. But I had dinner one time with somebody from E&I. That was long time ago, more than 20 years, at least 20 years ago. And I have known that gentleman for a long time, and he paid me a very good compliment about some of the work that I had done. So my son turned to me, especially he saw that I had another friend that was driving a Ferrari. And he told me, why did you, if you have done all of that, because he never realized it. He said, if you have done what this gentleman is saying, and the other person was very well known in industry, he was not a lightweight person. He said, why did you stay with the company? Why didn't you start a consulting like the other person and you've made a lot of money? I said, knowledge is one thing and being a good marketing person is a different thing. I said, I could not compete in marketing. I said, if I have done my own consulting, we would have been, well, not starving, but it is not my personality. So it's very important to know, because somebody is successful in one area does not mean, even if you are the smartest person, does not mean you are going to be as successful in that area. It is, so everyone has a set of skills that it is very important to utilize those skills the most, make the most out of what you are. It does not mean you go chase another field because it makes more money or less money or more fame or whatever. It because one has to realize that um, it may take a different type of skill to be in another area. Being a good technically does not mean you can be a good consultant doing marketing for yourself. So knowing your limitations is extremely, extremely important.
Thank you very much for your answer. So, which skills do you recommend students to learn as soon as possible and why? Like languages or something like that. What do you think?
That's interesting. There is. That's a difficult question to answer. I can tell you one thing. There is there is IQ, this is the intelligence test, and EQ, emotional intelligence. And the best thing is for one to, emotional intelligence sometimes is a lot more important than intelligence as we define it as intelligence, because somebody can be very intelligent but can turn everybody around him off. So one has to, this is also related to your skills, to one skills. So you one has to look to see how he can improve himself in that fashion. Language is important part of it. You know, if you say you're coming from Middle East and or from any country, you come to United States. Unfortunately, people will judge if you make so many mistakes in talking, they may equate it to intelligence. That's sometimes, especially it happens from people that may not be, maybe you meet in the street, may not be as highly educated as you are. So if you're a PhD and you make too many mistakes, people outside may think, oh, how did you get a PhD, or how did she get a PhD? So language is one thing one has to improve. The interaction with others, you know, and especially in a country like in the United States. It's very important that one can work as a team, as a part of a team, because projects are no longer individual projects. You know, when I started in Halliburton, many of the projects that I started or I worked on with only mine. And that doesn't happen very much anymore. By the time I was leaving Halliburton, you can see in the papers, rarely you have people where I'm the only one. I may be the first one, I may be second one, I may be third one, because we worked as a team. A lot of work that I've done, a colleague of mine was working purely in the field, would come back with ideas and we have observed this or observed that, and we look at it and we're trying to figure out what is happening, and it many times led to very good work. So if one is not able, so working on a team is very important. Is very important. Working cooperation, not competing. That is part of emotional intelligence, and those soft skills are very important. You know, because I would assume you learn the science and engineering and all of that in university, but some of the soft skills are equally important.
Totally agree with you about emotional intelligence, one of the most important things. Well, my next question is, where do you see the industry going in the future?
Which industry? Petroleum industry?
Petroleum.
It is going to be different. I think we are going to continue to have oil and gas drilling and production. It will change, and sometimes it's very difficult to tell how it is going to change. You know, with shale revolution, actually this was not very surprising to many of us. We did work on, you know, this is something that, like what I taught in the introduction to fracturing. We started working in fracturing horizontal wells for a long time. And we started adapting our simulators. People don't realize that I started working in our simulators. We had developed, when I was in Halliburton, developed a very sophisticated simulator for fracturing, and basically for fracturing horizontal wells. And we started adapting that simulator to shale a lot earlier than what people realize. So by the time, I remember going to teach school, and somebody said, well, can you simulate shale? I said, yeah. I said, when did you add it? I said, we've added it several years ago. We knew what is coming. It was obvious. Right now, it may not be as obvious, at least and maybe because I'm in academia rather than in industry. In industry, you're in the seeing what is going on every day, and you get a feel of it. But for example, in University of Houston, we are working on geothermal reservoirs. So we are because technology that we have developed in fracturing horizontal wells or vertical wells, it can be adapted very much to geothermal reservoirs. Obviously, the rock is different, so you have to change some of the parameters. It is naturally fractured, so we know that. And the most important thing is the heat. It's very hot formation. You're injecting water, you're heating it, you're producing it again, and you're using the water, and you keep recycling back and forth. So the industry is going to be it's going to be different, but it's going to be around for some time. You can't fly airplanes on geothermal energy or wind energy. It is not a kite. You need a special engine. So unless, of course, one would never know what the ingenuity of human being is going to lead us to. There is possibility of all kinds of things. But I think we're going to have the industry for many more years to come. One has to be adaptable. You have to adapt what you're doing to new things. The things cannot, and it never did, by the way. If you think about it, there's always changes to the better. When I started, we were talking about massive hydraulic fractures on the vertical wells. That was in very late 70s and early 80s. By late 80s, we're talking about horizontal wells and fracturing horizontal wells. So fracturing horizontal wells has been around since the late 80s, not the last 10 years as some people would lead you to believe. We fractured the horizontal wells, multiple fractures back in the late 80s. However, that technology, instead of creating 6 frac, became creating 100 fracs, 120 fractures, or even more sometimes. So technology would continue to grow. So things are going, the most important thing is one cannot stop saying, well, okay, I've learned how to fracture vertical wells and I will never learn anything else. You can't be like dinosaurs. You have to move one has to move with the time. So it's going to be different. I think we're going to have oil industry for many more years to come, long before I retire.
It's
long after I retire.
It's good for us, actually.
Yeah, it is. No, it's going to be good. It is. I think the future is bright.
Thank you very much. Well, my last question, my final question, a little bit long, but yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a philosophy of life? What is your best piece of advice for living? And if a young person came to you asking what's the most important thing for living a good life, what would you say?
That is very difficult to answer. For me, I'm happy with what I have. And I don't regret anything I have done. As long as, obviously, as long as you want to follow ethics, you want to do everything ethically and legally. And most of the time, the two agree with one another. But you don't want to do anything illegal. You don't want to do anything unethical. especially these days. If you do anything wrong, it will be on in Google forever. So, you live your life ethically and legally, and be happy with what you have.
Thank you very much for answering our question very sincerely. I really enjoyed this talk, and I got my notes. I got personally, I got my notes. I got all answers for my questions. Thank you very much that you took time out of your schedule for us. We appreciate your efforts and your time.
Thank you very much, and it's very nice meeting you, Rahima.
Thank you very much.
pronounce it Rahima or Rahima?
Doesn't matter. We can say however you want.
They are both good.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you very much. It was very flattered to know you and to have a chance to talk to you today. Thank you very much. And also, guys, I hope that you enjoyed our talk. It was very nice, and I wish you good luck in your upcoming quiz. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Soliman. It was very nice.
And thank you, Dr. El Garhi.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed.